I had a friend of the family contact me asking if I could help them out. They were using their practically brand new mower when they hit some bolts on a basketball post. They wanted to know what their options were, and I informed them that their options were limited and could be expensive. Believe it or not, the best course of action was to replace the engine. I went to their house to go pick it up, and I was greeted with this very sad sight. What's up, everyone, and thank you for stopping by. Today's project is this Husqvarna lawnmower, and to be honest, from 10 feet away, it looks to be in pretty good shape. At the time of the incident, I think the mower was only 2 years old, but it didn't look like it, and that's because it didn't have a lot of run time on it. However, if you take a closer look, there are a few things that really stand out. When the blade hit the bolts on the post, it not only damaged the blade, but also the blade adapter and bent the crankshaft. The damage also made the engine vibrate so badly that the lower part of the handlebar eventually broke and had to be replaced. The problem was they no longer made this part, so they had to use a different part instead, but now the handlebars won't stay in their position. I already made a video on how I fixed this problem, and if you're curious on how I fixed it, click on the link at the top right of the screen. Before I fixed it though, I wanted to give it a good cleaning, that way when we did fix it, it wouldn't get dirt in places where it's not supposed to be, like in the fuel tank or the carb. I'm also going to take this chance to answer some of your questions that I often get, or at least some of the more interesting ones. There's a lot of questions, so let's get started. In one of my videos, I was working on a trimmer, and as I was putting it back together, I didn't replace the air filter. The question came up, I'm surprised you didn't replace the air filter because there was some debris on it. Now, this is a valid question, and I didn't replace it for two reasons. The first reason was that it wasn't that bad to begin with, so just because there's some debris on it doesn't mean it needs to be replaced. The other reason is more than likely I probably didn't have the part on hand. With all the parts I have stocked up, I don't always have everything I need to finish a project during filming. I don't like breaking up filming days. I like to try to finish in one session if possible. Otherwise, I have to keep track of multiple video files, which can be a real pain, but with only one video file, there's less of a chance that I accidentally delete some footage. I would always suggest replacing the air filter, but only if you know it's a good investment. The one thing I would not do is buy all the parts you think you need ahead of time, and in the end you realize that the engine is just too far gone. Now you're stuck with several parts you don't need. The next question is more of a statement. It has to do with a Tecumseh engine I was working on. They believe that Tecumseh engines are more economical than Briggs and Honda engines. I do believe they're saying that it's more fuel efficient than other engine brands. I don't recall what my original answer was to that comment, but it would be cool to make a video where I test the fuel efficiencies of several different brands of engines. I would line all the mowers up side by side, make sure they all had fresh oil in them, put the same amount of gasoline in each one of the tanks, turn them on, and see which one runs out of fuel first. It wouldn't be very scientific, but that's fine. We're not trying to figure out fuel consumption numbers, just a time comparison. Like I said, not scientific, but it would be interesting to watch. I've always thought my old beat-up Honda was more fuel efficient than a Honda clone, but I've never tested that out. If this sort of video interests you, I'd like to hear from you. The next question has to do with transmission oil in a self-propelled mower. The question is, I still think a thicker oil in the transmission would have worked. You had several comments before about doing that. Why did you choose the route that you went? I was a little surprised by the tone of the comment, as if their whole world depended upon my decision, and they wanted to know the reasoning behind it. The question was about a Honda mower that was leaking transmission fluid, and the problem was that an output shaft seal had been damaged due to some fibers that had wrapped around the shaft. I had removed as much of the fibers as I could and then refilled the transmission, but the seal was too far gone. The seal ended up being pretty expensive as far as seals goes, and a cheaper route would have been to put 90-weight gear oil in the transmission instead of what was supposed to be in it. Now, the viewer had a good point. The easiest route would have been to just replace the oil with gear oil and call it a day, and possibly saving quite a bit of money and time. However, I wanted to fix it back to the way it came from the factory. It was just a choice I made, no other reason. I do believe I mentioned the possibility of using heavy grease in the video as an option for those who didn't want to invest the time in removing the transmission, and if for some reason the seal was even more expensive than it was, or it wasn't available, I would have put the gear oil in the transmission instead. The next question is a little bit more refreshing. The question is, what's your newest mower right now? I think the answer is the yellow Cub Cadet that had a surging issue. I think it's about 3 or 4 years old. I don't really care if the mowers are new or old. I'll try to fix them the best I can. Now, would I pass on a 1-year-old Honda mower? Of course not. I would definitely pick that up. The only problem with working on older mowers is getting parts for them. The next question would be the exact opposite of the last question. What's the oldest mower you've got? The answer is pretty easy. It's an older 2-stroke Lawn Boy. I don't know the exact year, but it's over 40 years old. I only have one video of it, and I think I'm just cleaning it as it got really dirty while in storage. The next question has to do with my videos. The question is, how long does it take you to make your videos? For this one, I'm going to generalize the times as I don't keep track, but I've got a pretty good idea. Depending if I can finish the project in one filming session, it might take me 2 to 3 hours to record it. Editing doesn't take as long, at around 1 to 2 hours, depending upon how long the raw footage is. One of the longer parts is writing the script, as I'm not a writer. If I had to guess, I would say this takes me about 3 to 4 hours to write a script. The last part is the voiceover work and combining it with the edited video, which usually includes more fine-tuning. Now this might take me about 6 to 10 hours depending on the length of the video and how much tweaking I need to do to it. It's hard to say this out loud, but a typical video takes me anywhere from 12 to 19 hours to make. Typically, these videos end up being about 10 to 15 minutes long, but if you see any videos that are over this time, it just means I probably took over 20 hours to produce. Now, this is a far cry from the videos from the early days when it only took about 4 hours to produce, but these were only 5 to 8 minute videos with very little talking, as scripts were kept to a minimum. So you can see how much time it takes for me to make these videos, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't like long videos. If I were to produce 20 to 25 minute videos, I would have to adjust my upload schedule to accommodate the increased production time. I still might make a few changes as time goes by, but I miss my bread and butter, which are 5-minute videos. I might have to do a mix of this type of content where I make both short and long content. That way I can satisfy those who like a certain length of video over the other. I mean, which would you prefer, a 5, 10, or 15-minute video? When I watch a video, I don't have a problem watching long videos as long as it's entertaining, but if it's 20 minutes of boring footage, I'm likely to watch a different video. The last question has to do with cheap carburetors. The question is, with aftermarket carbs being so cheap, why would you even bother wasting your time in trying to clean one? Now, this comment makes a lot of sense. If it takes an hour to clean and replace a diaphragm, would you say your hour and the cost of a metering diaphragm be worth about $10 to $15? However, the answer might not be so clear. What if you make a lot of money per hour at your work, say over $20 an hour? Then yes, replacing the carb is a lot better route because it's cheaper. But what if you make about $8 an hour, or maybe even less than that? You might possibly be between jobs or maybe even retired. In that case, you might have the time to clean a carb and service it. I think it really depends on how you value your time. Now, if the carb had some serious issues with it, or the cost of some of the parts for it would easily total the cost of a new carb, then it's a no-brainer to just replace it. Now, the choice to replace a carb is really dependent on more than one factor, but a combination of several. If you're having a hard time deciding, try sharing your situation with another person, and they might be able to help you make up your mind. I hope you enjoyed watching me clean this mower and answer some of your questions. Now, I do plan on doing more of these Q&As, so if I didn't answer your question, please don't be afraid to ask, and I'll answer them either in the comments, an email, or in a video like this one. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.